And we are live coming at you from the Cincy Light Studios here on George in the Jungle. I am Aaron Smith, joined as always by George Vogel, and this little show here is presented by Remington Tavern. You can find Remington Tavern at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m. $5 Bourbon Whiskey Wednesdays, Bottle Cap Bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. And with that, George, we are off.
I'm impressed with that little video open too. Very nice.
Yeah, I think it was one of your rival news stations that set that up for Chad. So
that was very nice of them.
Yeah.
The video looked great.
But we'll get started here. First things first, we will start with UC football. And you've got some guys that are coming back. Brendan Sorsby is inked in his new deal, as reported by first reported by Pete Thamel. Interesting way to put it. As
I loved how that was worded. That was hilarious.
It's been a thing for years and years and years. We're just now talking about it out loud, and now the money coming in is actually tax. You have to pay taxes on it as opposed to just taking it in a McDonald's bag. But
That's right.
In any case, Brendan Sorsby is in the fold. Joining him will be his center that has been snapping the ball, as announced today. Gavin Gerhardt is going to be back as well. And on the other side of the ball, that big old nose tackle from the city of Cincinnati, Dante Corleone, announced that he will be back as well. So the only real announcement that we're waiting for at this point is Joe Royer to see if he is going pro or if he's coming back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out and hear what the scouts are telling him and where he would go in the draft, because they'll give him a fair assessment and a fair idea. And, obviously, given what the football team needs, I'd sure as heck like to see him come back. But depending on what they're telling him, that decision is going to be pretty easy, I think, for him to make. Because, quite honestly, early in the year, his stock was really taking off. I don't know if it flattened with the way things went down the stretch, and I don't know what they're going to be telling him, but I know this. If he comes back and gets another year where he gets to play all the time like he was able to this year, he could play his way into being a pretty high pick. So that's going to be an interesting one. Dante's an interesting one too, because no doubt he will get drafted. Someone will reel him in. But I think the health issue this year, it does behoove him to come back and prove his health and that everything's cool and you're not really taking a health risk with him by playing, if he gets a full season in and all that business that happened in the summer with the blood clots is behind him and a team doesn't have that in the back of their mind. So very interesting times in college football now. And even going back to where, we talk about, they said Sorsby, with a new deal or whatever. And the thing that's changed with this, yes, the money is above board now and all that. And people know that's going on. But you don't have to sit out a year. That was a big, big deal back before, where you had to sit out a year if you transferred. Now you don't have to. And the incentive to transfer wasn't as high as what it is now to be able to, take a legitimate money offer and play right away and not have to sit out a year. And that's probably about the only way this money system works, or the best way it works for the players, because schools aren't going to pay someone to sit around a year before they become eligible. So the whole thing, I was just sitting here before we came on the show and looking at everything going on with the portal and the end of football season. We haven't even gotten to the coaching staff change yet. And this is just football. And you think basketball, there's stuff going on in baseball and the NFL and, Joe Burrow's house getting robbed and all this stuff. This news cycle for sports is just out of its freaking mind. It doesn't stop.
Nope. Sure doesn't.
It is nuts, everything that's going on. So, to me, it says a lot that they end the season with 5 straight losses. You go 5-7 this season, and these veterans are saying, "I'm coming back. I am
Yeah,
coming back." That says something about what's going on here in trying to build something. Now, obviously, you got to have the wins. Obviously, we need better game day decisions out of that sideline. But the fact that they have, this atmosphere that these kids are really who have seen it inside out, and they're like, "I'm in." I think that says a lot for Coach Satterfield.
I agree. I certainly think it says a ton about this coaching staff, especially because when you look at guys like Brendan Sorsby, like Dante Corleone, like a Gavin Gerhardt, all three of those dudes would have had opportunities in a lot of different places. They didn't have
Without
to
a doubt.
come back because this was a last ditch effort or the last resort. It wasn't as if this they had to come back to Cincinnati if they wanted to continue football. Sorsby probably could have landed at several large schools. Chad said that he's heard that there were several schools that were in position or already in the college football playoff that were trying to make a run at Brendan Sorsby. When you talk about Dante Corleone, whether it's coming back for the money, it can't be the money because he was projected by a lot of people as at least a third round, if not somewhere in the second or even as high as a first round draft pick. Of course, the blood clots may be a concern there, but again, not his only option just to come back to Cincinnati. And if he wanted to stay at college in the college game, he probably had a list of options there as well. If he decided, hey, I'm going to go in the portal, see what's going on there, and end up at an SEC school or a school that may or may not be closer to a college football playoff run than Cincinnati. So he specifically said, I want to leave Cincinnati as good as it was when I got here. And that's his motivation for coming back. He has always dreamed about running out on Nippert Field with the C-paw on and the Cincinnati across his chest. And he's continuing to live that dream and wants to finish his career here. That's, again, a huge testament to Coach Satterfield and what they've been able to do while Dante's been here. And you love that from a leader on your team, a veteran leader on your team.
But yeah, you named the 2 linemen who are leaders, and Sorsby obviously a leader. That's big to have those guys coming back and know what to expect in the off season, what spring practice is going to be about, and what is demanded of them in terms of execution on game day. And hopefully we see a little better execution next year. And my guess is those are 3 of the guys that are going to make darn sure it does happen. So they're going to put a lot into it. They've already put a lot into it. And it's kind of surprising and refreshing that that's happened, because honest to God, the way that season ended, in my heart of hearts, I figured 2 of the 3 would be gone, is what I thought. And I thought Sorsby might be like, look, I'm not dealing with this. I'm gonna give it a shot somewhere else where I think I can win. So it does say a lot, and it's a good start to the offseason. We'll see what they can pull in, reel in the portal, because and I saw the deal with Zach Grant about signing day and how they look at these guys and what they go after. But it certainly just smacks too of they knew they were going to do it this way and probably save the bulk of that NIL money for the portal. Because let's face it, this coaching staff needs a pretty quick turnaround. They can't wait on high school players to be able to take the field and be difference makers. And I just feel like they kind of, and maybe this didn't happen, but I feel like the bulk of that NIL money was saved for this portal.
As it should be, because I think it would be financially irresponsible to start dumping a ton of money from your NIL fund into high school players. If you're Cincinnati, who has a limited NIL fund, because
Ohio State can do that, Texas can do that, Bama, there's schools can do that. But yes, if you're in a place like Cincinnati and his thought process and the whole thing about these kids and kind of waiting on their development and given the positions they play too, you usually have to wait to develop those guys anyway, right? on both lines. It usually takes a few years. So, when you take all that in and add it all up, it's a very interesting plan. And if it works, it will be genius.
Well, if next year's freshman class is anything like this year's freshman class, you should have a couple of guys who stand out anyway that could potentially see the field immediately. So we'll see, because let's face it, these guys have been trying to go after, they have certain body types for each position that they try and go after that replicates what the NFL is, because they want to get guys in here that can be drafted, because that shoots up your program.
Totally.
So if they're able to do that and get some guys in here that can contribute immediately from the freshman class, in addition to the guys from the portal, you're starting to cook with gas at that point in time. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing in the portal. But again, when you have leaders like you do coming back, it would mean far more had they gone somewhere else for what this coaching staff is about than in a negative light, had they decided differently. Right now, the guys who are in the portal aren't guys that I saw as top of the leaderboard as far as leaders go, and nothing in that regard is really standing out as a huge strike against the staff here.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. The kid that had to sit out this year, the wide receiver, who looks like he's got a lot of promise, he's leaving, but
Tyron Smith,
yeah, but it's and that's a position they can use help at, but maybe he's being squeezed out by what Tony Johnson was able to do this year and the way he emerged. So,
sure.
I haven't. Nothing's made me go into Panicsville like they are in Lexington because their top wide receiver is leaving. Just a couple hours.
Who's the legacy?
Stoops said nobody panic, and it turned into panic. But nothing like that. Hopefully, nothing like that happens here. So far, so good. But there has been a change, probably one everyone expected with Kerry Combs, and I expected, some kind of retirement announcement or something like that. I still don't know ultimately how it's going to play out. It sounds like a firing, but I've known Kerry a long time. I did a story on him before he was the head coach at Coleraine. He coached a year at Loveland High School, and I did a story on him as a head coach in his first day as a head coach at the high school level and what he did. And, he got the job at Coleraine right after that. I've known him forever, respect the hell out of him. And however he wants to announce this, however he wants to play it, he's more than earned that right. And it's a guy that I'm thankful had a shot at UC and coached at UC, put his heart and soul into that. And when he joined the staff, how he helped lead the recruiting charge here locally and in the state of Ohio. He was a big part of that program for a long time, and things did go south the past couple of years, and who knows why, but certainly, the corners weren't a highlight. Certainly the special teams were a low light the last 2 years. So I don't know what happened there. All I know is I'm thankful he had a chance to be a part of it, and I know how much he loves Cincinnati. I know how much, you cut the man open and you're going to get, Cincinnati chili or Cincinnati tap water. The guy just bleeds whatever is Cincinnati. And I just hope everyone respects what he did and what he tried to make of it. And I know I talked to him for a long time when he was head coach at Coleraine about potentially someday joining the college ranks. And basically the only place he wanted to go was the University of Cincinnati. Now, of course, he did move on and saw how the college game worked, and was at Ohio State. Then Vrabel took him down to Tennessee for the NFL. But he really back then was like, there's one place I would leave, and it would be to be a coach at the University of Cincinnati. And good for him, because that's how it worked out.
Yeah, Westside Jesus will always hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts. And
Absolutely.
sad to see him go. Of course, you wish it was under better circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
wish
wish
it was
him
under better
well. I know
circumstances,
he's
but
probably well
unfortunately,
off.
somebody had to answer.
I'll tell you a quick little story just about a little bit about him and what he's all about. Is he had promised to be on our show after the football game on a Friday night. He was going to drive from this big game and then come to our studio to be on the air. And his game went late. And like he comes driving in. He's got one headlight out. So I got to tell him about that. And he's like, that thing's been out all season. But he rushed his butt off to get into that studio. And he didn't quite make it on time, but he made it on time to be on the air. And we could go back and do our segment with him. And he was just that kind of guy. If he told you he was going to do something, he did it. And if he had to move mountains to do it, he did it. If he told you he was going to do it. So that's just a quick little story about what he was all about. And that's why he had a lot of respect when he went to UC. From every single high school coach I talked to respected Kerry Combs and would trust a kid going to a program with him as a part of it.
Yeah, they don't make him quite like Kerry anymore. A guy who has coffee running through his veins, as opposed to any type of red or white blood cells. So I don't know. It's bittersweet. I mentioned this with Chad earlier tonight on the nightcap. He does have the opportunity, if he so chooses, to bookend his career essentially with Coleraine. I understand that they're still searching for a coach. So that one wouldn't surprise me at all if he wants to continue coaching.
Yeah, that's not the job it was when he left. And, unfortunately, it was okay. They actually had some pretty good years in the late 80s. They had some tussles and some talent. And then it kind of fell off the charts there for a few years. And then they hired Kerry in, and boy, he got it going, and he had them rolling. And the talent they produced with his teams and the success they had, and Tom Bolden was able to keep that ball rolling. And he was with Kerry a long time on that staff. In fact, may have played quarterback for him. He may have. I can't remember if he was Calusi or Kerry, but anyway, they went back a long ways, and that's a tough job right now. But you're right. Maybe he would want to go back.
I've won in 2 years
and give it another shot. But I don't know how these coaches coach as long as they do, man. I was thinking about that Belichick thing and him wanting to jump into the college game. Really? Like, are you kidding me? He's, 72. Okay, that's not ancient. And you still got some gas in the tank. I mean, that's coming from a guy my age, but you have some gas in the tank. But my God, that's a tough gig. And I just don't understand why some of these guys just don't go enjoy some other aspects of life, because this coaching game's got to be a burnout job.
Kerry's only though, 63? Like he is not – he's in his early 60s, so he is not at that point that some of these guys have gotten to where –
No, but he would be – okay, so he was an assistant at Lakota whenever he came out of Dayton, where he went to college. So, I mean, he's 40 years in the game, 40 plus years. And that's why I just don't know, man. I don't know how these coaches don't burn out quicker than they do. You get to be like Saban was, and you're kind of more figurehead than you're doing a lot of the, grinding. But something tells me he probably grinded all the way through it. I don't know how they do it. That's a tough gig, man, but they love it. That's why. It's love of the game and love of coaching kids and seeing them improve. And probably that's part of what keeps them young, is being around those young players.
Well, happy trails to one Kerry Combs, a.k.a. Westside Jesus. You will always be fondly remembered for your fire and brimstone.
Definitely. Class act. I owe him a beating in euchre, though.
In any case, it is the week, George, the week of the
yes,
Crosstown
it is.
Shootout. And in several days, Cincinnati will host the Xavier Musketeers for the 92nd Crosstown Shootout. This one has been not great for Cincinnati over the course of my lifetime, as most things have been trending. But they have as good a chance this year as any to take out the Xavier Musketeers, and it should be an exciting game.
It should be a great game. You know how it is. Every year, someone pops off that Xavier team that, 50% of the time it's a guy you don't expect to go off that goes off. They just put up, 119 tonight against Morgan State. So they definitely worked out some kinks after that TCU loss and have that offense purring along. I know Fremantle had a big night. Here's what scares me about this game. And it's the same thing. And Chad brought this up last year going into the game. And you look at the big difference again, if it's anything close, is the free throws and the ability. Every year, somehow Xavier gets to the free throw line a ton, right? A ton. They're getting there 20 times a game, 21 times a game or whatever.
That's wild.
After tonight, they I forget how many they shot tonight, 27 or something like that. Fremantle had a bunch of them. UC doesn't, and it kills the Bearcats in these games. And I know you guys had an article on that too that Justin Berg wrote about how long it seems like, UC's gone without players who find a way to get to the free throw line. And then once they get to the line, they make one or two of them. And that concerns me in this game. You got to keep Fremantle from going off. He had a big night tonight. It was Morgan State. Is Aziz going to be able to stay out of foul trouble and not leave his feet when he gets these fakes and anything else going on, or whoever else is guarding Fremantle? Because sometimes I feel like our big men leave their feet too darn quick, and that gets them in trouble and creates foul opportunities for them. So those are the two big factors that have me a little concerned about this game. And then, of course, you don't want Ryan Conwell catching fire and going off for 40-something, which, that's happened more than once in this series too.
To your point, Xavier tonight was 25 of 34 from the stripe. So lots and lots of free throws in that game against Morgan State. 54 rebounds for X also.
And I saw a little bit of that game in the first half, and Morgan State wasn't putting up much of a fight anywhere on the court, especially inside. I'm sure X mauled them on the boards. So we'll see. That's against Morgan State, and UC is a much tougher team. And I really am anxious. It's good to see Dan Skilling's back out there against Howard on Sunday. And while he only played 13 minutes, he certainly looked pretty darn good. Probably didn't score the way he wanted to, but I know there was one time over on the sideline. I was on the opposite side of the court. This is probably why I had a good view of it. There was a loose ball, and I swear to God, he started to jump for it and realized maybe it's not best for me to jump for this one because it went off Howard anyway. And I think he kind of saw that and was like, I better, because you're coming back from injury. You don't want to blow the game, So he may have been a little careful in that regard because, first game back, and it is Howard. And my guess is there is every bone in his body wanting to go out there in this shootout and show how good he can be. And so I'm anxious to see how much he helps out. Hopefully not overhyped. The news conference with Mitchell today was awesome. Dylan was really, really good about it, talking about, the people in the city talking about him going to Target and getting hit up by people. Yep. Just that kind of stuff. It's good that those kids know that, And CMOS talking about it today too, as a guy who, he had the health issue last year when he got hit by the car, but he's played them at Butler, beaten them at Butler, and he knows what this is all about too. It's just, Lord, don't let the Bearcats get in any kind of foul trouble at all, please, because I don't want Xavier at the line shooting free throws all day.
Well, that's boring basketball anyway. So hopefully the refs just swallow their whistles, let them play a little bit, and without it getting overly physical between the two teams, as we've seen happen.
Happened. And this is just such a great event in the city. To me, only eclipsed by opening day, and probably only eclipsed by opening day because of the parade and the pomp and circumstance and all that. Because when you get, doesn't matter what arena it's in, it can be at X, it can be at UC, it can be down there, anywhere. The 5 minutes leading up to tip off, there was more electricity, and during that game, more electricity than any event you can think of, and it's nuts. And to me, that's what makes it so great. And you hope it's a good, clean game, and the intensity is in level of play, and it doesn't get out of hand like it did that one time. And I think that's probably what we'll see, is a bunch of damn good athletes who respect each other and go out there and just ball out, man, and just leave it all out there, because it's a fun, big event. Let me ask you this. This is a dumb idea that popped in my head the other day that I might start doing.
That should be fun.
Every year now, my wife says this is dumb, this is stupid, it's a waste, and she's probably right. But I'm going to buy like a UC hat or a UC shirt or something on game day, right? And if the Bearcats win, I keep it. If they lose, I just burn that baby that day. Just douse it with something and light it up, right?
Yeah, well, if you do that, you have to put it on. If you're burning a shirt, you have to put it on social media. I think that's one of the things that goes hand in hand, right? You have to make a spectacle of it.
And to make up for the waste of it, because Mrs. Vogel made me feel bad, like it's a waste of money, and you could give it to a kid or you could give it to Goodwill. I will donate the price of the product maybe to a charity or something. I don't know. But I was sitting there watching the game the other day, and it just popped in my head, and I'm like, I should just start buying a piece of UC gear on game day. And, my mom being, Mother Teresa, devout Catholic, and so she was a Xavier fan. My mother, I'm attending UC, and I'm watching the shootout, and she's like, who are you rooting for? I go, well, you think I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the Bearcats. Well, how can you root for them? You should be rooting for the good Catholic boys. It's like, I don't have the money to go to that school, and UC's got what I need, and I'm a Bearcat. So that's not always, I even, the earliest basketball I remember is UC, coming off those national championships, and that's when I became aware of it. And the ironic thing about this, and my mom kind of being more, rooted for Xavier when Xavier played UC, is that she's the one that introduced me to it all. She introduced me to UC basketball, and then wonders why I'm rooting for the Bearcats in the shootout. So that's how this whole thing is. You've got husbands, wives, brothers, sisters. I mean, I know a family that's so screwed up on this deal that I can't even describe it. Like, they're UC football fans, but they're Xavier basketball fans. But the son and daughter went to UC, and they're huge UC football fans, but they still root for Xavier. It's like I can't do it. I can't, and that's what this game does. So I mean, they talk about this dividing people and that dividing people. Well, one day a year, this damn game divides the heck out of people.
Yeah, should be interesting. I'll be at family Christmas, and my mom's husband is a Xavier fan, and it'll be interesting being there.
When they played when I was in school, and we had games on the student radio station. They had the women's game first. They were doing a doubleheader down at the Coliseum. This is probably like 1980. So we're doing the student radio station, but we weren't allowed to do the men's game. So we did the women's. So me and the dude, because we're going to stick around for the shootout. So we haul our equipment in this big suitcase up to the suite, and then we come back down with the suitcase empty, fill it full of fun beverages, and go right back up that elevator. So we were set for game 2 of that doubleheader with lots of beverages in our pockets, and they kicked us out of our suite, though. So we had to go down amongst the student section, but we were very popular when we kept pulling cans out of our pockets. So things like that happened back then. That was before you Chad.
I knew I didn't like your mom's husband for some reason.
Yeah,
God
he's her heart. God rest her soul.
No, I was talking to Aaron.
Me, my mom's husband is an Xavier fan. He is a Louisville fan. He is a Dayton fan. He is an Ohio State fan, and all of these universities, I'm fairly certain he's actually had to pay some tuition, whether for himself or for a child. So he's feels that he can be a fan of all of these teams, and I think it's disgusting. Pick
and
one.
he left out the Bearcats.
He didn't. No one attended.
Oh my gosh!
I knew I didn't like him.
He goes. He has a season ticket for the football. So
that's the heck of it around here, that there's so many darn schools, right? Miami, Ohio University, UC, Xavier, NKU, UK, Louisville, Western. I mean, on it goes. And I haven't even gotten to Indiana and Ball State yet.
My favorite thing is making him buy Cincy Light if I'm coming into town. That way he has to
make
a donation.
I like it.
To Cincinnati. In any case, it should be a great game. Tip off at 2:00 on Saturday, an early one this year. I don't know that I love that, but it's probably for the best.
Yeah, I like the later ones better too. Fortunately, it worked out for me that it's better that it's early this year because of someone who doesn't pay attention to anything. Not Mrs. Vogel, but someone very close to her decides we're having a Christmas party that night. And it's like, can you please check a schedule? Now it works out that it's at night.
I'm also going to be doing family Christmas. So.
Oh, really? During the afternoon?
Yeah, that's what I told you, that I'm going to be at a family Christmas party with my mom's
You
husband.
did say that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So we'll be actually in Indianapolis. So I'll be out of state watching this game.
But you will be able to watch it.
Absolutely. Wouldn't
I don't need to send you text updates or any archaic things like that.
It'll be on. I won't be able to pay attention in the vein that I like to, as far as if I'm going to be doing a show immediately after. I think we're having that covered for me, as I will be a little.
Will you be in a room with a lot of other people?
Yeah.
And will you be able to curse out loud?
I generally don't really filter too much of that.
Okay. All right. Good. You'll have fun then.
Yeah. So the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Apparently, they what a weird way to win that game.
Oh my gosh. That's just, and it's amazing that the guy who missed the block ends up being the guy who recovered the ball. That
crazy.
It is everything about it. A former Bengal is the one that blocks it. And then I'm so mad. That thing gets blocked and I hear it. And then it's like, it's bouncing down the field. And I'm getting up to go get something else out of the fridge. And I'm PO'd expecting the Cowboys to get the ball right about midfield. And then I see it hit the guy. And I'm just like, that hit him. That hit him. And the Bengals jump on. It's like, I tell you, that was a weird one. And then the Bengals knew what to do with it. I mean, after, tormenting the Cowboys all night with Burrow to chase, that was the fitting way to end it.
Yeah. What I guess I'm going to do my best to pronounce this. Maima Njongmeda.
I know it. I know it. I know it. He played really well in preseason and was stood out right away in training camp. And
undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
But Maima Njongmeda.
And they asked Zach, did you catch that about whether he would get a game ball for recovering that fumble? And Zach's response was, look at the whole play. And then when you looked at the whole play, it's like, he's the reason the thing got blocked. He better go recover it. So the poor guy didn't get a game ball, and as it should be.
Well, he probably also saved Zach Taylor's job, because if Zach Taylor loses out, I don't know that he has a job. So maybe this one saved him. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I'll be surprised if they move on from him. I will get it if they do, because I've sat here and said I would do that. There's just too much talent on this team to be where they are. And even now you look, I wrote this down somewhere. If you look at the teams they've beaten have a 15-50 overall record. Like it's the Panthers, the Giants, the Browns, the Raiders, the Cowboys. All of them are having horrific years. They haven't beaten anyone yet. And you've got, you got the Titans and the Browns coming up. Winnable as all get out. Better win down at Tennessee. Then you're back home. Then you got the Broncos and Steelers coming in. The Broncos are playing for something. They've been pretty tough. And you would hope Week 17 Steelers have nothing to play for, right?
Sure.
So what I'm getting at, there is a chance. I know it's like a 3% chance, but I'm going to say, in my mind, it might be a little better than that based on what they have remaining.
And maybe that 3%, I'm sure that 3% will change week after week as different things happen and some of the dust starts to settle. But the final score was 27-20. Jamar Chase, you had already mentioned, playing out of his mind, 14 catches, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is a Triple Crown leader currently in a Pro Bowl caliber season, leading the league in receptions. I think it's by 6 yards. I believe it's like 149, I want to say, and touchdowns. He's got a fairly sizable lead there as well. But he has an opportunity to finish the season leading all 3. And I think he's on a just villain tour this season, trying to show the Cincinnati Bengals, hey, you probably should have already re-signed me, because now I'm going to ask for the moon.
Yeah, he certainly is. And they should have gotten this done.
Yes.
And we all knew it. And we all knew it was just going to cost them more and more. And, it's not costing them more and more only because other receivers have signed for more and more. This guy, like you said, is playing out of his mind. I mean, he's on another planet right now. And he's putting together the kind of career the Bengals have never seen out of that position. And they've had some good wide receivers in their past. And it was interesting. I guess he had asked if the 14 receptions might be a team record, and they told him 17. And so I'm sure that's going to be in his sights too. So because this dude is a competitor. I mean, he really is. And I hope I'm not wrong about this, but he strikes me as a guy that the money or the contract, it's really not going to change him, because he's just an absolute animal freak who loves to compete and win and go out and win his battles. And just what a job he did last night. And Burrow was on his game last night. Chase Brown looked great. I think they could have actually I felt like for the first time they kind of got their chunks in the running game, where it wasn't, and they even talked about this in the broadcast, but they were able to get the 6-yard runs on first down and a 5-yard run on first down or whatever, and keep things somewhat manageable. They weren't great on third down, but they were really good on first and second down in that game. And a lot of it had to do with that, with Chase Brown and what he did, not just running the ball, but he had a number of what do you have? 6 catches, something like that, out of the
14,
backfield.
Yeah, 14 carries, 58 yards, 6 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. And then, of course, he hops into the.
Oh, that was the best. I'm so glad that was a touchdown. That would have been if he would have stepped out and he went through all that and probably going to get fined, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because who was it? Ezekiel Elliott? Didn't he do that once and jump in that Salvation Army kettle, which is funny as all get out. I love it. But how Chase was able to keep inbounds on that play as fast as he was going. And I mean, that was an impressive play. And
it was.
He's really making a case, will he be the no one is down after down after down in the NFL, and they take series off and there's rotation. But he's going to be the number one guy. And also interesting, Burrow, another great game, said he had the one interception he called stupid, which was funny. And I saw it and I'm like, why not? Because he threw that ball in the 3 white shirts. And I know Chase got bumped and it probably threw the timing off a little, but he was mad because he threw that ball into a crowd and he should have done it. He should not have thrown that ball there. But the most interesting thing, until we found out his house got broken into, to me last night about Burrow was what he said after the game about T. Higgins.
Well, before you get there, I want to say that 33 of 44, 369, 3 touchdowns, did have the pick. He still continues to put up MVP numbers, which
totally
whoever wins the MVP should write him a thank you note for not winning the games, because he's having an MVP season. There's no one, in my opinion,
is costing him. Yes, the defense is costing him the MVP. You're right.
The only player in the entire league that is competing with him for MVP, in my opinion, is actually on his team, and it's Jamar Chase, because I think his receiving numbers are also MVP caliber. But I digress. He's not
going to happen for a Bengal this year, given this record.
No.
Before we move on from Burrow too much and in the game, and I skipped this, but I want to bring it up with you. Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna bring up the quote yet, but he did say something about Chase Brown I found interesting as you were talking about Chase Brown.
Yes.
He said that last season he couldn't catch.
Yeah.
And it was a big problem. So he didn't throw him the ball. He couldn't catch. Chase Brown has LASIK surgery in the offseason, and now he catches everything. And it's an amazing weapon to have. Thought that was hilarious. But I will let you go with the bigger quote.
My question for you, well, first, before I get to that, and we saw Burrow under some duress. I thought the line did an okay job. There were a lot of pressures, but I thought they did.
Michael Parsons is really good.
And he's ridiculous. And then lines up, they even said during the game, he lines up where he wants to. Mike Zimmer just says, pick a side that you feel good. That's great. Hey, if I'm Zim, I get it too. But riddle me this, because we've seen this happen several times now this year, and it's happened a couple of times to Burrow, and on that last sack, there was an obvious face mask in there, and that's a dangerous play. That is a dangerous play. I know players don't do it on purpose, but a lot of bad things can happen when you're grabbing a face. It's so easy to see on replay, to me. Why can't the replay guy buzz down and say, hey, you missed this, there's a face mask? Like, they review other things that take forever. That's an easy one. That is, you can have that done in 30 seconds.
Well, and they started with they did allow, you could, for at least one season, you could review pass interference, and they realized that was probably an overreaction.
Yeah.
That was an overreaction to a situation.
I just feel like you're sitting at home watching the game. Everyone knew, kind of saw it, and then you saw Zach's reaction. I don't know why the replay guy doesn't see that and can't buzz them and say they missed one, because that is a dangerous play. And I just feel like, how in the hell do you miss that? It's the quarterback with the ball. What the hell else?
If you want to really uphold the shield and all of that, I think that a situation where you are being face masked shouldn't even be something that you have to challenge if they miss the call.
No, exactly. That's my thing. If it's that obvious, that blatant, and you see it like that, I mean, because that could have been a big deal in that game too, a huge missed call at the time. But the Bengals get out with the win. But on to the other interesting thing, and the quote was Joe speaking about how they are working on ways to keep T. Higgins as a part of the Cincinnati Bengals, which I'd given up on. But to me, it was almost like he was saying he was willing to sacrifice something and figure out a way, and that they had already talked about it, a way to keep the whole gang together and still fit things under the cap. And I just found that very interesting because while I've thought about that, I hadn't heard that. I've not heard anyone really allude to them being able to do all three like Joe did last night.
I thought that the way that Joe put it was obviously attention grabbing. It was headline news immediately.
Yeah.
The way that T. Higgins reacted to it was very different. I felt like he was kind of just downplaying it and trying to remain mum. His body language was not really, it didn't seem positive to me. So I think he's just trying to hold his cards very close to his chest and not, he's in a very different situation speaking on his own future and contracts and all of that than Joe Burrow is talking about T. Higgins' future and contracts and all of that.
Right.
Especially when reports are that New England is wanting to offer him everything that they can to bring T. Higgins into the fold, and that's part of their plan. That's been reported this week. So I don't know. It's very interesting. Obviously, Joe doesn't like to say too many things, in my opinion, that are headline grabbing, that are out of pocket like this. So I think there's probably something to it, and I doubt that he's going to offer something up that is a breach of trust without T. Higgins being part of these conversations. So I would certainly not think that it was all for nothing.
Right.
But we'll see.
Very interesting 24 hours for the Bengals, no doubt about it. And they get to win. And thanks to Cade York for making the kicks and everything, because I had to pick him up in an emergency situation for a fantasy team.
As did the Bengals, actually. But his girlfriend being on the sidelines as a cheerleader, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I don't know. I mean, again, like I said, this news cycle is out of control. It's everything you can think of and more. And it's been an entertaining weekend, no doubt about it. It's an entertaining last 24 hours, to say the least. It's insane what's been going on across every sport you can think of.
So talking about insane, Joe Burrow, of course, today is his birthday, as I understand it. How about that? And your house was broken into yesterday while you had someone who's apparently under your employment watching your house, who turns out to be Sports Illustrated swimsuit model Olivia Ponton.
So, okay, I did not know that last bit of information. But when I heard the report this morning, I heard him say Burrow was paying a 22-year-old woman to watch his house. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Okay, come on. Now, if I'm going to have something, and there is a security guy in the driveway because of this whole thing that happened with Mahomes and Kelsey when they played in the Monday night game, and they got robbed. And this is also a neighborhood, and I know where Joe lives, and I know some funny stuff about that whole neighborhood. It's just it's funny. Great place though. But to get to his place, you have to go through a gate. You got to have a pass to get through a gate. Now, it's not what I would call a gated community, but his part of it kind of is. So these guys, I don't know if they came up the hill from a road below. I don't know how this happened, but it's brazen. And then when you see how big the house is, I mean, it's almost a hotel. You can understand why someone could be at one end of the house and a window breaks in the bedroom and they're able to hide and call their mom, call the police, get the security guy out of the driveway and into the house. And thank God that guy was there. So I guess they just ransacked the bedroom, which is enough. But I mean, it's nuts. I mean, these guys, I don't know. I feel, look, they get compensated very, very well, but at times you feel really bad for them. It's like they can't have a normal life at all. Now, would I trade him for it? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I just know when he lived where he lived before, where he lives now, it was just a train wreck of him getting bugged all the time. People just knocking on the door, fans wanting to meet him. I mean, like, I don't get people. I don't understand why you don't treat others the way you would like to be treated. I don't think people want someone knocking on the door. Hey, I just wanted to meet you. Hey, okay, great. I'm glad you like me and all that, but for God's sakes, let me live my life. And that just doesn't happen.
Now, of course, the jokes write themselves, and I've seen people talking about how there were cutouts of certain offensive linemen there to protect the house, and people ran right through them because, of course, they did. I made the joke. I haven't seen this one anywhere, but I made the joke that Evan McPherson was actually there and tried to kick him out, but wasn't able to.
Oh, jeez.
Just saying.
Hey, he's injured. Go Knights.
Well, anyway, it's just all fun and games. No one was hurt. Hopefully, he had nothing of crazy value taken. Maybe they took some of his outfits that he's worn, including the one he wore to Monday Night Football, because they're horrendous.
Yeah, I was going to say some of those. Yes, please. Please.
Yeah. Get them out of here.
They probably are throwing out on the side of a road somewhere. The guys are like, I ain't keeping this. Well, but that would shake you up too. I mean, it's like, what do you got to do? It would definitely shake you up if you are Joe Burrow. It's like your darn house gets broken into. I mean, it's not good. And I hate that it happened. And hopefully they tracked down the idiots and did it. But the so-called security experts seem to think it's kind of an organized gang that's going around all over the place, not just Cincinnati, but all over and hitting these celebrity homes.
Well, I don't believe he has the Batmobile yet, so they weren't able to get that. So that's also a good thing, because that wouldn't be hard to pick out in a crowd or anything like that.
No, it wouldn't. No. I wouldn't advise stealing the Batmobile.
That'd be crazy. In any case, we'll see what the Bengals have the rest of the season. I was as shocked as anybody that they were able to pull out the win last night. And
so they can beat the Titans. They can beat the Browns. I'm not saying they will. Look, they haven't beaten anyone yet, and it's
5-8.
I'm not confident in saying there's a chance by 8, because the Broncos could certainly get the best of them, and we'll see if the Steelers are playing for something. My guess is they probably will be, but we'll see. But yeah,
until you're eliminated, you're not.
At least we're still talking NFL Bengals football here in mid-December.
The last things I wanted to get to, you had some Reds topics you wanted to get to. Something about Dave Parker, I believe.
Oh, Dave Parker, elected to the Hall of Fame by the Classic Baseball Era Committee down at the winter meetings. He and Dick Allen and Dave Parker, who grew up in Cincinnati, went to Quarter Tech High School, ended up, broke in with the Pirates, and then eventually got back to Cincinnati and played for the Reds. And to me, it's been an oversight forever. And Dave got caught up in that the what was called the was it the Pittsburgh trials or something? But there was a drug trial that involved a lot of major league players back in the time, an investigation, and I think that hurt him a little bit when it came to getting voted into the Hall of Fame the first time around. That perhaps some of that was held against him, because when he came up and he played in the 70s for the Pirates, he was the most feared player in baseball for a several-year period. I'm talking 7-8 year period. He could run. He could throw anybody out from the outfield. He could hit. Great line drive hitter. When he came up, became more of a power hitter. And that's another thing that I really respected about him. By the time he got to the Reds and his game had slowed down a little bit because Dave was a little bigger, so he wasn't as fast as he was. He became a big home run RBI guy, as opposed to a always like stir in the pot kind of Ellie kind of guy. And he was very good at that for years and years, and moved on and played with the A's as well in that role. And I think it's long past due for him to be in baseball's Hall of Fame. And I'm really, really happy for him that it happened, because it's well deserved. So that to me was very, very big.
Well, good to hear. I know that Juan Soto inked a new deal this week. Just an absolute insane deal.
Yeah.
Becomes the richest man in baseball by a lot. What was it? 15 years, 765 million. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know where it ends, and that certainly, these mid to small market teams are really, I know people don't like to hear that, but I'm telling you, it's a real thing.
Well, what
market teams can make mistakes that a team like the Reds can't make when it comes to signing free agents and taking other chances. So it's kind of sad that the gap in baseball probably grows bigger because of this, but I'm still hopeful that the Reds are kind of on the right track right now, and it can, hopefully have a bit of a window to make some noise coming up in, heck, maybe even starting next year. Who knows? They're down at the winter meetings talking about signing that pitcher from Japan.
Roki Sasaki.
Sasaki, yeah. 23 years old, and there's a signing period in 2024 coming up, and I think the most he can get is what the Dodgers have, is like $2.2 million in their pool. However, if he waits till after the new year, a window opens up where the Reds will have $7.5 million to throw at him. And it's weird because these guys who are under 25 coming in from the international, they're subject to different rules. So they're not like wild free agents where they can make whatever they want. There's a limit on how much you can offer these guys. And the Reds, along with some other teams, have the max limit. And, Nick Krall said they're going to take a shot and see what they can do. I think it's a long shot, but boy, it would be exciting, because when you see the numbers he put up, he can throw at 102. He's put up good numbers in international play, and then in the top professional league over in Japan, he's been, an absolute animal. An ERA just barely over 2, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, or a little more than 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. So he would be an added bonus to this team if they could pull that off.
Yeah, I'd love to see Sasaki end up in a Reds uniform. But getting back to the Juan Soto thing, he and the Reds being a small market team, Soto turned down a 15-year deal for $440 million when he was with the Washington Nationals. He ends up taking this 15-year deal for $765, making a ton of money, obviously. But that's concerning when you look at Ellie De La Cruz. Yep. If you try and sign him early, bear in mind Ellie's agent is Scott Boras, maybe the grimiest agent in all of sports, not just baseball. So you have Scott Boras, you have Ellie being represented by Scott, and I believe Juan Soto was as well.
The devil. Represented by the devil himself.
Pretty much. So you're worried that Ellie may not be able to get a deal early. If you're the Reds, you're obviously wanting to try and get that done as soon as you can.
Right.
If you're wanting to extend him, you also have to remember that Ellie took one of those weird deals coming out of the Caribbean where a company takes you in and gives you a bonus essentially to sign on with them. And in turn, you owe them 25% of, I believe, every contract you ever sign as a big leaguer. So whatever he ends up signing, he will owe this company 25%, which is insane.
It's a ripoff, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. When you look at the dollars they're talking about now, and unfortunately, that makes it tougher on the Reds to sign this guy. Because when
Sure.
you're taking that kind of haircut off the top, you got to max your dollars. I mean, if I'm the Reds, I'm trying to get something done like tomorrow. I would really like, you know, you look at this guy and the electricity he provides and what he can do, and he's just getting started. Sure, he has some flaws, but, you know, don't tell me there's another guy really in the National League at his age that can light up a ball team like this guy does.
If you're not able to get him signed in the next year or two, you're going to end up having to trade him before his current contract is up.
I hate to see it come to that. I mean, the Reds definitely got lucky that he blossomed into what he did, but they're the ones that took a chance on this skinny kid out of the Dominican when nobody else was looking at him and sign him for the minimum and get him in their system. And by golly, they should be rewarded for that more than, you know, just a couple years at the big league level.
We'll see what happens, though, with some of the names that are being kicked around as potential trades. Garrett Crochet from the White Sox has been looked at as a potential trade for the Reds. There's also Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas out of Cleveland that are apparently some names that have been associated with the Reds as potential trades. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, winter meetings. I would imagine if the Reds are going to make a trade, it's either going to come while they're at winter meetings or out of a conversation that happened at winter meetings. So
yeah, those are wrapping up tomorrow, I do believe.
I'm sick and tired of the LA Dodgers and them signing literally everyone at this point. It's disgusting. The only one that they didn't sign was Juan Soto going to the Mets. I imagine they probably tried to do some deferred bullshit like they did with their last big signing with Shohei Ohtani, where they deferred everything like a decade later.
Yeah.
But in any case, we'll see what happens.
Part of that is with Ohtani is he doesn't have to pay that California tax because that totally teed off the state of California when they found out, like, if he moves after his career, then he doesn't have to, I guess, wherever he is. It doesn't make sense to me, but I guess they would miss out on a hell of a lot of tax money if he moves from LA after that, you know, when he starts getting the big money out of that deal. And so there's nothing cut and dried anymore, Aaron. It's just all crazy.
Yeah, and that's not even bringing up the weird gambling and his translator and all of that.
So weird.
But
so weird.
Baseball,
there's too much crap going on. I mean, look at all this talked about.
The baseball news cycle will be heating up. I'm sure we'll have several things to talk about next week after whatever happens here with winter meetings. So anything else you got for high school, and we'll get out of here?
No, the football wrapped up this weekend. Moeller in Division I in Ohio and Anderson in Division II both came up short. Cooper and Riles, same thing in Kentucky in 5A and 6A. They made it to the state championship game. Great seasons for all those teams. However, Beechwood in 2A won its 18th state title in Kentucky with a victory last Friday. And so they have won 18 state titles, all of them coming since their first one back in 1984 under the great Bernie Berry, who had a great run at Beechwood and then another great run at Wyoming, and is one of the all-time best. And he has some funny high school football stories himself, I'll tell you that.
18 out of 40 ain't bad.
That's right.
Congrats to them. Well, with that all said, thank you for joining us. If you were joining us live, thank you for listening to us on whatever platform it is that you are listening to us on. Thank you, as always, to Remington Tavern for sponsoring us. They can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Be sure to check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for my co-host, George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We will see you back here on Tuesday, 9 o'clock p.m. to discuss all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.